I've been using Armor Shield ceramic coating on my cars for well over 2.5 years, and I've always been really satisfied with the results. You can probably tell in the other videos I've made about it. But now, I'm going to give you my ultimate guide to the perfect Armor Shield application, and I'm going to use my brand new pickup truck to do it. Stick around. Okay guys, welcome to my garage. If you've never been here before, I do product reviews and talk about car stuff and just generally have a good time here in my garage and making videos that I hope you find valuable. If you have been here before, you know that I swear by Armor Shield ceramic coating for my cars. On a whim, I decided to try it on my Corvette 2.5 years ago. And it was really easy, very effective, and I've just been really happy with it so far. It works so good that I put a single coat on my daily drivers just to see how well it worked out. And after 2 years, it's still holding up well. In fact, I do owe you guys a 2-year follow-up video for that daily driver, and that's on the way. I've just had really good results with it. And for the money, I think it's the best value for a DIY paint protection product out there. And that's even before using a coupon code. And if you want to use mine, use the link below, enter Jason's Garage 25 at checkout, and you're going to get 25 bucks off, that easy. But when I recently bought my 2020 Chevrolet Colorado Z71, I specified to the dealership that they don't do any prep on it. They don't do any, paint prep or anything, delivery prep, if you will, which they said they've never had a customer request that. They thought they were kind of weirded out by it, but I had my plans set. And to be honest with you, between the time that I bought that truck and the time that I made this very video, I didn't like driving the truck knowing that the paint wasn't protected by the king, as it says. Get it? Avalon King, makers of Armor Shield. See the sticker that comes with, you'll see. Anyway, I decided to do another Armor Shield video, this time applying it to my new truck and getting a little bit more in depth than I did on the previous videos that I made when it comes to preparation. Preparation is super important to the whole application. See, there's this old buddy of mine who has this custom hot rod and paint shop in Detroit, and he builds cars for like pro athletes and things like that. And he once told me, he said, anyone can hold a paint gun, but it's the surface prep that makes the true difference. And that applies here as well. So I'm going to start by showing you exactly what you need, how to properly prep for the application, with a completely optional step or two that I'd like to show you, and then show you how easy Armor Shield is to apply, and then of course show you the results. And by the way, you can skip to each section of this video by clicking the links in the description. Okay, ready? Here we go. Let's start with what you need at a bare minimum. First, you got to clean your car and remove all wax, grease, and grime, or the Armor Shield just won't adhere to the microscopic pores of your paint effectively. I used to use Dawn dishwashing liquid for that, but I don't suggest that you do it very often and only when you really want to strip everything away. By the way, a guy named Sal Zano is the one that told me to do this many years ago. Some of you might have heard of him. Now, Avalon King has their own prep shampoo, and you could add it to your cart when you buy Armor Shield. I got my hands on some here. I'll read the label. Prep shampoo strips away old waxes and sealants, super concentrated for maximum cleaning power, and rinses clean. The first step in a full detailing process and gets the job done. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. Instructions. You really can't mess this up. Yes, that's what it says. Add 1 ounce of shampoo per 1 gallon of water, wash the car, rinse the car, dry the car. For foam cannon, add 2 to 3 ounces more. For thicker foam, get this, add more. Yes, it says get this. Do not use in direct sunlight. Do not put in your eyes. Rinse if you do. Even if you own a Prius, don't drink it. Contact an optician immediately. Keep out of reach of children and pets. And made in the USA. So they got a sense of humor there at Armor Shield. This is the perfect replacement for the trusty old Dawn dishwashing liquid, and it is specifically designed for the preparation of an Armor Shield application. And on a side note, Avalon King just recently released a maintenance shampoo that's formulated just for ceramic coatings. You can also add it to your cart when buying Armor Shield. And another side note, when I wash my cars, I use a Chemical Guys Big Chubby Sponge. It's big, and it's chubby, and it's soft, and I really like the quality of materials. I've got a few of them, and I use them every time I wash my cars. If you never use one of these, check them out. You're also going to need some isopropyl alcohol, or also known as IPA, in order to do a final wipe down right before applying Armor Shield. Now, a lot of people have concerns about this, but used correctly, it's okay to gently use on paint as a way to prep for a wax polish, sealant, or ceramic coat application. Use common sense, of course. However, I know you can't really easily get your hands on some of this stuff due to the pandemic going on right now, or if you just don't like the idea of using IPA on your paint, there's a few products out there that can be used instead. I found a couple, and I'll link to them in the description. And of course, Armor Shield. This is the final step, and I'll get to more details of this later and show you the process of applying it if you're new to it, and I'll give you some pointers on what to do after applying it to maintain it. So that's a bare minimum of what you need. You can apply this method in a couple of hours or so. If you want to do a more optimal method, which is what I'll do in this video, I recommend this process. First, the initial wash with the Prep Shampoo. And then use this, Griot's Garage Iron and Fallout Remover. Now this is completely optional and it's not in the Armor Shield instructions, but I recommend it and I'll use it today just before I do the final wash and IPA wipe down that I mentioned before. It's an acid-free and pH-balanced gel that you spray on, you wait 3 minutes, and then you agitate it with Griot's Garage Wave Scrubber, and then you wait 3 more minutes and then you rinse it off. And what it does is it breaks down iron contaminants that have penetrated into the paint, and that can eventually corrode. This is like brake dust or rail dust if the vehicle was ever transported by rail, other similar contaminants like that. And when it eats away at those contaminants, it shows as like these purple streaks running down your paint surface. It's kind of neat. I'll show you. Again, this is completely optional, but I've done it on other vehicles. I've just never mentioned it before in any of my videos, so I thought it'd be good to show it to you today. After you do that, you rewash it to get it all off completely, and then you're on to the next step. The next step is also optional but highly recommended, and that's to do a clay bar treatment to remove any embedded contaminants on the surface of the paint right after you wash with the Avalon King Prep Shampoo or the Dawn dishwashing liquid. And instead of clay, I use Griot's Garage Fine Surface Prep Mitt. These are great because you can use them over and over and over again. I've used these for years actually. It has a large polymer surface that doesn't embed particles or dirt in it like clay does. And if you drop it, you just rinse it off. You can't do that with clay. If you drop clay, you're done and you can't ever use it again. And even when you do use it, if something like a pebble or a lot of dirt gets stuck to it and you don't know it, you can grind that into your paint. And I've done it and it sucks. But with this, you don't run that risk. It's just a much better alternative and it's much easier to use. In fact, to save time, when I do the final wash, I'll use this with the Prep Shampoo instead of the Big Chubby that I showed you before. The next optional step is to polish the paint, but I'm not going to do that today, but you can if you want to, and then do the IPA wipe. So to recap the two methods, the simple method is to wash, do the IPA wipe, and then the Armor Shield application. The optimal method is to do the Iron and Fallout Remover, then you wash, you clay bar, or use the Griot's Garage Fine Surface Prep Mitt, polish if you want, do a final wash, IPA wipe, and then the Armor Shield application. Got it? Good. Now let's get started with the Iron and Fallout Remover. Okay, we're going to apply this stuff. Now I've done what the instructions say. I've washed the vehicle thoroughly. I'm going to do it one section at a time. I'm going to start with this one right here. Now I wait 3 minutes. I'm going to take the wave scrubber here and I'm going to agitate it. So once I'm done agitating it, I'm going to wait 3 more minutes and then rinse it off and then move on to the next section, just like that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. See that purple mark right there? That's showing that it's drawing the contaminants out of the paint and it's going to be rinsed away. And there's a few of them back here. I don't know if you can see them on camera. They're pretty small, and that's a good thing. If this truck had 50,000 miles on it, chances are there'd be a whole lot more. That's my experience when I did this before on other vehicles. Here's the front fender. I'm definitely starting to see more of it. Again, not very bad. It's a brand new vehicle, so what do I expect? But when I did it before on my previous vehicle, I think I had 20 or 30,000 miles on it, and it literally looked like the paint was bleeding purple. So surprisingly, the hood and the front aren't any worse than the rest of the vehicle so far. Maybe just a little bit, but otherwise it's not too bad. And again, that's a good thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of the panels. I'm going to do it panel by panel. I'm going to rinse, and then I'm going to rewash it, and then I'm going to use the clay mitt, and then I'm going to be ready to apply the Armor Shield. So now it's okay to switch over to the next phase, which is the Armor Shield Prep Shampoo. We're going to see how well this works. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save a little bit of time by actually using the Prep Shampoo when I use the Griot's Garage detail mitt instead of the clay bar. All right, here it is. It foams up pretty decently. Has a decent smell to it. And the beauty is that it's designed specifically for pre-ceramic coating applications. So let's give it a try. Okay, let's see how well it applies. Okay, let's do a quick recap. I used the Griot's Garage Iron and Fallout Remover, then I then used the Avalon King Armor Shield Prep Shampoo, and then I use the Griot's Garage Fine Surface Prep Mitt. Now, the paint looks pretty good, right? Well, it's only going to look that way for so long because right now it is 100% unprotected. In fact, you can see how the water just wants to kind of hang around on it. It doesn't really bead, it doesn't really sheet, it's just stuck there. And that just means that there's all these crevices and pores, microscopic in the paint, that is not filled with anything like a polish or, in this case, a ceramic coating. And that's exactly what dirt's going to do as well. It's going to stick to it. So now we're going to get in the garage, we're going to do the alcohol prep, and apply the Armor Shield. The alcohol wipe down is pretty important, and it's just a kind of a once over just to make sure you have any impurities that are remaining after the wash and prep process. You get rid of all of it so the Armor Shield can adhere to the paint as much as possible. Now, I know that rubbing alcohol is pretty hard to come by these days, so if you can't get your hands on any, that doesn't mean you can't add Armor Shield to your car. You just want to make sure you get the paint as clean and as pristine as possible. Are you still with me? Okay, now that the surface is fully prepped, it's time for the best part, the Armor Shield application. And I'm going to start with a very, very satisfying unboxing. Check this out. Now, if you've never installed ceramic coating before, I'm going to show you how to do it per the Armor Shield instructions. So first we did the wash, then the clay bar. We didn't do the polish this time. We did the IPA wipe, so then it's time to proceed to the application. So what you start with is you take one of these cloths, and you take the sponge. Both of these come with a kit, of course. Then you wrap the cloth around the sponge. Now here's a little tip that I picked up. Take a knife and make a slit right there on both sides of the sponge. That way, when you tuck the cloth in there, it stays put. You don't have to worry about making sure it doesn't slide off. Because then what you do, according to the instructions, is you shake the bottle and apply several drops to the cloth, or draw a line just down the center. Then you wipe a thin layer across the car surface, first horizontally and then vertically, to ensure an even application. So you continue to spread in a crisscross pattern until you have completely covered the section, and you add drops as needed. And then you let the coating sit for generally between 1 to 5 minutes, and then remove by buffing with the included microfiber towel. So the 1 to 5 minute part is the thing you got to pay attention to, because it is based on temperature. It's 50 degrees, you wait 4 to 5 minutes. 60 degrees, you wait 2 to 3 minutes. 70 degrees plus, you wait 1 minute. Alexa, what's the temperature right now?
Right now, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right, getting chilly.
Expect a low of 51 degrees.
Thanks. Okay, getting chilly. So it's 66 degrees right now, so we're going to wait 2 to 3 minutes, maybe just a little bit longer than that before we buff things off. Now, it's important to apply one section at a time. You don't do the whole car, you just do one section. And you want to make sure you inspect the vehicle as you proceed, making sure there's no high spots or residue remaining. What's a high spot? Usually when you put too much on, or you didn't remove it completely when you buffed it off. And in order to do that, just add a little bit more Armor Shield to it and follow the time, and then buff it all off together. After applying, you want to leave it in the sun to dry if you can, if there's no dust, or in a dry spot. And just one thing I want to point out, you can do paint, wheels, glass, and lights, like I mentioned before. So when it's all done, after applying, once you've finished applying, inspect the vehicle from multiple angles and use a flashlight to find any high spots. If you allow the product to sit on the surface too long, you might notice some streaking. You got to be careful about that. So that's why you want to make sure you follow that time based on temperature. Here's when you're done, the drying and the curing part. In warm conditions, the coating becomes dust dry after 2 hours and then touch dry after 5 hours. So they recommend you leave it in the sun to dry as long as there's no dust. After that, the finish will be dry enough that you can drive, but the coating is still far from being fully cured, so try not to touch it or expose moisture to it or bad weather. The longer it stays dry, the better. It'll continue to cure. About 48 hours for initial drying, and avoiding water, rain, snow on the car. And then try not to wash the car or expose the car to water for 4 to 7 days afterwards. Now here's the neat part about doing a ceramic coating, is you probably won't need to wash the car. That's the thing, is that you just find yourself washing cars less because they just don't get as dirty. So Now that I've done everything about that, I just wrapped up the isopropyl alcohol wipe down. It's time for me to apply it exactly like I just showed you. I've tucked the cloth in the sponge. We're just going to draw a line across, just like that, and here we go. We're going to go horizontally, and then we're going to go vertically. We're going to add drops when needed. On darker cars, it's easier to see than lighter cars. Like when I first applied this over 2 years ago to my Corvette, it was silver. It wasn't as easy to see. But here, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but you can kind of see where, see, like I think I missed a spot right there, so I'm going to just kind of hit that just to make sure. Okay, now that I've covered that, it's time to wait the time that it says per the instructions. Okay, now it's time to buff it off. And it's that simple. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but already it looks really, really good. So you're going to do it section by section. You only want to do a section at a time because, if you leave it on too long, it'll streak. So you don't want to do that, and you don't want to do too big of an area that you can't get to buffing off in the appropriate time. Things like a hood or something along those lines, you want to break that up into sections for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of the vehicle section by section, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait about an hour to 2 hours, and then I'm going to add a second coat. You don't have to, but it's a good idea to do so because you might miss a few spots, and a second coat will fill in those spots, and then you're going to have total coverage. So I'm going to continue to work around the vehicle and then do a second coat, and then I'm going to let it cure for the time needed, and then we're going to take a look at how good it looks, and after a few days, we're going to test the water repellency just like I've done before. Because I've been using Armor Shield for quite a while now, I get a lot of cool questions from people. And one of the questions that I get more often than others is, what happens if you apply it to a matte or a flat surface? Well, yes, you can do that. It would just make it look less matte or less flat. Here's a great example of that. I treated my fender flare here with Armor Shield starting right here this way. And then this half over here is obviously untreated. So that's the difference that it would look like when you treat it with Armor Shield and when you don't. To me, it makes it look new, and it's going to keep it cleaner and nice and kind of dark and factory fresh, if you will, a lot longer than not treated. You can consider it a great substitute for a trim restorer, if you will. It just doesn't restore it, it just keeps it looking new longer. The stuff works great on just about everything that's non-porous. How about glass? How about mirrors? Absolutely, but here's the thing I do. I complete the paint on the vehicle, and then whatever I have left over in the bottle, that's what I apply on glass and mirrors and things like that. That means it's good for areas like this, like this. People want to know if you could use it on things like that. You sure can. How about taillights? Yup. And how about this little guy right there? That's right, the backup camera. I put just a little dot of Armor Shield on that, let it cure, and it doesn't fog up as easy, doesn't collect as much dirt, and when it gets wet, the water just shoots right off it. Right here, it gets really dirty really easy. Dirt just loves to collect in these little corners here. And then down here, this thing, even when it's clean, it looks dirty. Not anymore. So that's the optimal method to applying Armor Shield. And again, you don't have to do all the steps I showed, but if you can, it'll help the prep process be more effective. And like the instructions say on the Avalon King Prep Shampoo bottle, you really can't mess this up. You just follow directions, you'll be fine. I can't stress this enough though, preparation is the key. In fact, after doing this a few times on a few vehicles, I found that applying Armor Shield is the easiest part to the entire process. That's a fact actually. They really make it foolproof. You just gotta follow the directions. So now's the time where I show you where the effort pays off. I was gonna wait a few days and then get out my water hose and then, test the results like I had before, but like what happened to me in previous videos, the weather did it for me. It's been about 5 days since I applied the 2 coats of Armor Shield that I just demonstrated, and we just got a really hard rain here, and then the sun came out, which I thought would make it a perfect opportunity for me to come out and check out and see how well it did. Now personally, I'm not surprised because I've used Armor Shield in the past with the same results that you see right here. You can see how the water just completely beads up all over the surface on it. There isn't really any area that I can find where the water wants to stick to it. It's just kind of sitting there, beating up on it. It doesn't hang out the way that it did before. And even on the plastic parts that I treated. So it's definitely very, very hydrophobic. Let's check out the side. Remember before how I showed how on the fender it looked like water was just stuck to it? Well, now it's just beaded to it, and it can come off pretty easily. And on the door, it doesn't even want to stick to it at all. It all sheeted off. Perfect. Same goes for the other side. Gravity did its job, and so did Armor Shield. This is the 4th car I've put it on myself. And as I mentioned, I wasn't surprised at the results, but it's still always satisfying to see those results. Here's a bottom line on this, and I think it's pretty important that I make this clear. If Armor Shield didn't work as good as it does, I wouldn't put it on any of my cars, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it. I know a lot of my friends and viewers like you guys have tried it as well with the same results I've had. I guess I just got lucky trying it once, and I've always been impressed with the results. I truly believe in it. In fact, after I started using Armor Shield, I just got rid of most of my other car polish because it just didn't work as well or last as long or just wasn't as effective. It's a better way to go, in my opinion. So I don't think there's anything out there that's a better value. Not that I found anyway. And if you want to give it a shot, it's got a 2-year warranty and 30-day returns. And of course, again, save $25 with the link below and using my coupon code. You can check my other videos about Armor Shield if you want to see more. And if you have any questions about Armor Shield or my prep process or whatever, just feel free to put them in the comments below. Do my best to answer them. And as I mentioned, I still owe you guys that 2-year follow-up on my daily drivers, so stay tuned. That's coming soon. As always, thanks for watching, subscribing, commenting, sharing this out. Come back to my garage for my next video with more product reviews, how-tos, general garage life. I'll see you then.